What you will learn in this story. Why endpoint security matters. Every device, laptop, phone, tablet, sensor, coffee machine, is a door into the digital castle, and attackers only need one weak door to slip in. How modern attacks bypass old defenses. Fileless malware, polymorphic code, and living off the land techniques make traditional antivirus nearly useless against advanced threats. The danger of fragmented defenses. When each device type, Windows, Mac, Android, IoT, is managed separately, it creates silos where attackers can move faster than defenders. The unified endpoint protection model. One master control system that inventories, updates, and monitors all devices consistently across the organization. Behavioral analysis and AI detection. Instead of just spotting known bad files, advanced security learns normal routines and flags unusual behavior, like a digital detective. BYOD, bring your own device security. How containerization protects company data on personal devices without invading employees' private lives. The Internet of Things, IoT risk. Why even smart coffee machines and factory sensors need security, and how isolating IoT networks reduces risk. Cloud and remote work security. VPNs, cloud access security brokers, and zero-trust security ensure safe connections no matter where employees work. The business impact of better security. Fewer breaches, faster response, lower costs, and freedom for employees to work securely from anywhere. The human side of cybersecurity. Curiosity, problem-solving, teamwork, and continuous learning are as important as the tools, and Maya begins dreaming of becoming a future chief digital guardian. Chapter 5. The Digital Perimeter. The midnight alert that changed everything. 11-year-old Maya Chin loved computers almost as much as she loved soccer. She had built her own gaming PC with her dad's help and dreamed of becoming a cybersecurity expert one day, someone who protects computers from bad guys. She even had a cool title picked out, Chief Digital Guardian. One Thursday night at 2:17 a.m., bright red warning messages lit up Dr. Sarah Chen's phone like a digital fire alarm. Sarah, Maya's mom, worked as the chief information security officer for a huge toy company that made toys all around the world in 34 different countries with 87,000 workers. The messages were urgent and scary. Critical. Endpoint security breach detected. Immediate response required. The phone's buzzing woke up the whole house. Sarah had to rush to her office in the middle of the night, leaving a note for Maya. Computer emergency at work. Bad digital programs attacked our company's devices. I'll explain everything when I get home. Love, Mom. When Sarah finally came home that evening, she looked tired but relieved. Maya was bursting with questions about what had happened to the computers at her mom's work. Mom, what happened? Were the computers really sick with viruses? Maya asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Sarah sat down next to Maya on the couch, realizing this was the perfect opportunity to teach her daughter about endpoint security, protecting all the individual devices that people use for work. It's more complicated than viruses, sweetie. Let me tell you a story about what happened, and maybe you can help me understand how to keep it from happening again. Castle with thousands of magical doors. Imagine, Sarah began, that our toy company is like a massive digital castle, but instead of having just one main gate, it has thousands and thousands of magical doors scattered everywhere. Each door represents a computer, tablet, phone, or smart device that people use for work. Maya's eyes lit up with understanding. Like the laptops you give all the workers and their phones and those smart machines in the toy factories? Exactly. But here's where it gets tricky. We thought we had about 95,000 magical doors that we knew about and could protect. But when the bad guys attacked, we discovered there were actually way more doors than we realized, and some of them didn't have good locks or any locks at all. Sarah explained that their toy company had many different kinds of devices spread across the globe. There were 65,000 Windows computers like the ones Maya used at school, 8,000 Apple MacBooks that the designers preferred, 12,000 iPhones and iPads for mobile workers, and 15,000 Android phones and tablets for field engineers. The engineers also used hundreds of special Linux computers for designing toys, And there were thousands of Internet of Things devices, smart sensors that monitored factory temperatures, security cameras that watched the buildings, and even smart coffee machines that could order supplies automatically. "But Mom," Maya asked, frowning with confusion, "if you're the computer protector, how did the bad guys get past all those doors?" "That's exactly what made this attack so scary," Sarah said. "The attackers were like super sneaky digital ninjas. They didn't try to break down our doors with force. Instead, they sent fake emails to our toy engineers that looked completely real but had invisible traps hidden inside. When people clicked on them, it was like they were unknowingly handing the keys to the bad guys. The invisible chameleon enemy." Sarah pulled out her tablet to show Maya some diagrams of what had happened. The malware, that's what we call the bad computer programs, was incredibly smart. Could hide and pretend to be a normal, helpful program. It was like a digital chameleon that could change colors to blend in perfectly with its surroundings. "What did it do once it got inside?" Maya asked, leaning closer to look at the pictures on the tablet. "Well, imagine if invisible robots snuck into our castle and spent weeks just watching and learning. They figured out where all our secret treasures were hidden, in this case, the plans for our new super cool electric car toys that we've been developing. The malware was patient, like a spy who takes time to learn all the castle's secrets before making a move." Sarah explained that the malware had spread to 47 computers across toy factories in Germany, China, and Mexico. It was like having a digital thief that could be in 3 different countries at once, stealing secrets and causing problems simultaneously. "But didn't your antivirus software catch them?" Maya asked. She knew about antivirus programs from computer class at school, where they had learned about keeping computers safe. Sarah shook her head with a rueful expression. "That's exactly the problem we discovered. These bad guys were too smart for old-fashioned antivirus programs. They used advanced tricks that most traditional security programs couldn't detect. The attackers had used something called fileless malware, which didn't create obvious files on the computer like traditional viruses. Instead, it hid in the computer's memory, like hiding thoughts in someone's mind instead of writing notes they could find. They also used living off the land techniques, which meant they used the computer's own tools to do bad things, like using a person's own hands to hurt them. Most cleverly, they used polymorphic code that could change its appearance constantly, like a shapeshifter that looks completely different every time you encounter it. The Great Discovery: Too many different systems. As Sarah investigated the attack over the following days, she discovered a fundamental problem with how their company protected its devices. It was like having a castle where every room had a completely different type of lock, different people had different sets of keys, and nobody really knew who was supposed to have access to what. Sarah drew a picture for Maya to illustrate the complexity. Windows computers were protected by one team using Microsoft security tools. Apple devices were managed by a different team using Apple's security systems. Android phones were handled by yet another team with completely different tools and procedures. The special Linux computers that the engineers used? Almost nobody was actively monitoring them for security problems. The smart sensors, cameras, and IoT devices scattered throughout the factories? They had barely any protection at all. So when the attack happened, Sarah explained, it was like having security guards who all spoke different languages and couldn't communicate with each other quickly enough to coordinate a proper defense. By the time one team figured out what was happening and tried to warn the others, the bad guys had already moved to attack different types of devices. Maya frowned thoughtfully. "That sounds really disorganized, Mom. Like trying to play soccer when every player is following different rules." "You're absolutely right, and that's exactly the problem we needed to fix," Sarah agreed. "We realized that having separate security systems for different types of devices was like trying to defend a castle with guards who couldn't talk to each other. The unified defense solution." "So what did you do to fix it?" Maya asked, genuinely curious about how her mom had solved such a complicated problem. We built what I like to call a master control system. Imagine one super intelligent computer that could communicate with all the different devices and protect them using the same security rules and methods. Sarah explained that this new unified system could accomplish several critical tasks. Could see everything by maintaining a complete inventory of every single device connected to their network, no matter what type it was or where it was located. Could establish the same rules by ensuring all devices followed identical safety procedures, regardless of their operating system or manufacturer. The system could update all devices together, installing security patches and updates on everything at the same time instead of requiring different teams to handle different devices separately. Most importantly, the unified system could watch for trouble by monitoring all devices simultaneously for suspicious behavior and respond quickly by immediately blocking threats and isolating compromised devices before they could spread problems to other systems. It's like having one incredibly smart security captain who can see through all the castle walls at once, has master keys to every door, and can instantly communicate with every guard to coordinate the perfect defense, Sarah explained. The implementation had been challenging because it required integrating technologies from many different vendors and convincing different teams to work together in new ways. But the results had been remarkable. Instead of having separate security silos that couldn't communicate effectively, they now had one comprehensive view of their entire security landscape. The smart detective system. Maya was getting more excited as she understood how the solution worked. But how does the system know what's normal computer behavior and what might be bad guys trying to cause trouble? That's a fantastic question. We use something called behavioral analysis, which is like having a detective that carefully watches everyone's daily routines and learns what normal looks like for each person and device. Sarah used an analogy Maya could easily understand. You know how you have a normal routine every day? You wake up at a certain time, eat breakfast, go to school, come home, do homework, play games, then go to sleep at a reasonable hour. If suddenly you started eating dinner for breakfast, going to school at midnight, and staying up all night playing games, your parents would immediately notice something was wrong, right? Yeah, that would be super weird. Maya giggled. You'd probably think I was sick or something bad had happened. Exactly. Well, computers and the people who use them have routines too. Each device normally runs certain programs, accesses specific files, and communicates with particular other computers in predictable patterns. If a computer that normally just processes toy orders suddenly starts trying to access secret design files, or if it begins sending large amounts of data to strange locations at 3 a.m., our detective system notices these unusual behaviors and sounds an alarm. The new system used machine learning, which was like teaching a computer to recognize patterns the same way Maya had learned to recognize letters and words when she was younger. It incorporated threat intelligence information about known bad guys and the tricks they liked to use, and provided real-time monitoring that watched everything as it happened rather than waiting until later to investigate. The behavioral analysis system could establish what was normal for each individual user and device, then detect when something deviated from those established patterns. This approach was much more effective than just looking for known bad programs because it could identify new types of attacks that had never been seen before. Personal device challenge. But Mom, Maya said, thinking about her own devices, what about when people use their own phones and tablets for work stuff? Like when I use my iPad to do school projects that I might email to my teacher? Sarah nodded seriously, recognizing this as one of the most complex challenges in modern cybersecurity. That's one of the hardest problems we have to solve. We call it BYOD, bring your own device. It's like having to protect the castle when some people want to use their own special keys from home, but we can't be too controlling about their personal belongings. She explained the fundamental dilemma. They needed to protect company secrets and data that employees accessed on their personal devices, but they couldn't be invasive about people's private information, personal photos, games, and messages. It was like trying to put a secure lock on just one specific folder on a shared computer while leaving everything else private and accessible. The solution they had implemented was called containerization, which created a special secure workspace on personal devices that was completely separate from personal applications and data. Work emails, documents, and applications lived in this protected container, while personal photos, social media, games, and messages remained completely private and unmonitored. Container approach meant that if someone's personal device got infected with malware or if they accidentally clicked on a malicious link in their personal email, the company's data and applications would still be protected in their separate secure environment. At the same time, employees could use their devices for personal activities without worrying about their employer monitoring their private communications or activities. The Internet of Things security problem. Maya looked puzzled by something her mom had mentioned earlier. What exactly is the Internet of Things? Do our regular things really connect to the Internet and need protection? Sarah laughed at Maya's expression. You might be surprised by how many everyday objects are actually smart devices connected to the Internet. At our toy factories, we have thousands of smart devices that most people never think about as being computers that need security protection. She listed some examples that made Maya's eyes widen with amazement. There were sensors throughout the factories that constantly monitored whether machines were running too hot and might break down. Security cameras watched the factory floors and parking lots, automatically recording everything and sending alerts if they detected unusual activities. Smart lighting systems turned lights on and off automatically based on occupancy and time of day to save energy. There were even smart coffee machines in the break rooms that monitored how much coffee was being consumed and automatically ordered more supplies when they were running low. That's so cool, Maya exclaimed. But wait, can bad guys really attack coffee machines? Unfortunately, yes, and that's a serious problem, Sarah replied. Many of these IoT devices are like having doors with really simple locks. Sometimes the password is literally just the word password or 12,345 because nobody expected them to be targets for attackers. Sarah explained that if bad guys managed to take control of these devices, they could cause all sorts of problems. They could spy on factory workers and steal company secrets through compromised security cameras. They could mess up temperature controls and cause expensive manufacturing equipment to break down. They could even use these devices as stepping stones to attack more important computers and servers, since IoT devices were often connected to the same networks as critical systems. The solution had been to create a completely separate secure network just for these smart devices, like having a separate service hallway in the castle that was isolated from the main areas where important work happened. This way, even if someone managed to compromise a coffee machine or temperature sensor, they couldn't use it to attack the computers that contained valuable toy designs or customer information. Cloud Connection Challenge. Mom, what about when you work from home? Maya asked, remembering how her mom sometimes worked at the kitchen table on her laptop. How do you keep the bad guys from getting into the company computers when you're not at the office? Another excellent question. When people work from home or travel for business, they need to connect to our company's computers through the internet. We call this working in the cloud. But home networks and public Wi-Fi in coffee shops or hotels aren't nearly as secure as our office network. Sarah explained that they needed several special tools to make remote work safe. A VPN, or virtual private network, created a secret encrypted tunnel through the internet that protected all communications between remote workers and company systems. Cloud access security brokers acted like special guards that monitored how people used cloud applications like email, file sharing, and video conferencing to ensure they weren't accidentally sharing sensitive information or falling victim to attacks. Most importantly, they had implemented zero-trust security, which meant never automatically trusting any device or person, regardless of who they were or where they were connecting from. Every single access request required verification. It's like having to show your ID card every single time you want to enter any room in the castle, even if you just left that room 5 minutes ago and the guard knows you're supposed to be there, Sarah explained. It might seem inconvenient, but it's the only way to be completely sure that the person requesting access is really who they claim to be and that their device hasn't been compromised. The zero-trust approach meant that every connection was verified by checking multiple factors: who the person was, their identity, whether their device was secure and up-to-date, whether they were requesting access to something they were authorized to use, and whether their behavior seemed normal based on their typical patterns. The revolutionary transformation. 6 months after implementing their comprehensive endpoint security solution, Sarah had amazing news to share with Maya. The new unified system had exceeded everyone's expectations in protecting the company's devices and data. Successful attacks had been reduced by 94% because the system could detect and stop threats much faster and more effectively than their previous fragmented approach. Response time to security threats had improved by 78% since security analysts could see everything happening across all devices from one centralized dashboard instead of having to check multiple separate systems. The company had saved over $18 million by avoiding the costs of security breaches, reducing the need for multiple separate security tools, and improving operational efficiency. The unified approach had made it safe and practical for employees to work from anywhere in the world, enabling the company to hire the best talent regardless of location and reducing office space costs. Perhaps most exciting for Maya, the improved security had protected the development of amazing new smart toys that could connect to the internet safely, including interactive educational toys and advanced robotic companions that would be released the following year. The best part, Sarah told Maya, is that now our security team can focus on innovating and creating new protection methods instead of constantly fighting fires and trying to coordinate between different systems that couldn't communicate with each other. Maya's cybersecurity dream. "Mom," Maya said thoughtfully after hearing about all these incredible solutions, "I really want to learn how to do what you do. How can I become a computer security expert like you?" Sarah smiled proudly at her daughter's enthusiasm and ambition. "You're already asking exactly the right kinds of questions, which is the most important skill for any cybersecurity professional. Here's what you can start learning right now." Maya would need to develop strong foundational computer skills by learning how different types of computers, devices, and networks functioned. Problem-solving abilities were crucial, practicing finding creative solutions to challenging, complex problems that didn't have obvious answers. Pattern recognition training would help her brain learn to notice when things didn't look normal or when subtle signs might indicate trouble. Most importantly, Maya would need to embrace continuous learning, since technology changed rapidly and new threats emerged constantly. Cybersecurity professionals never stopped studying and adapting to new challenges. "And remember," Sarah added, putting her arm around Maya, "the most valuable skill you already have is being curious and asking thoughtful questions just like you did tonight. That curiosity will drive you to keep learning and growing throughout your career." Sarah suggested that Maya could start by learning more about how computers and networks worked, maybe by taking online courses designed for kids or participating in cybersecurity camps during summer breaks. She could practice problem-solving by playing strategy games and puzzles that required logical thinking. Most importantly, she should always stay curious about how technology worked and how it could be protected from people who wanted to misuse it. The bigger picture, protecting our digital world. As Maya got ready for bed, she thought about everything her mom had taught her about endpoint security and protecting devices from digital threats. The biggest lesson wasn't really about computers at all, it was about being prepared, paying attention to details, and working together as a team to solve complex problems. Cybersecurity, Maya realized, is like being a digital superhero. You have to be smart, observant, creative, and always ready to protect people from bad guys who want to steal information or cause trouble with computers. She understood now that endpoint security was about protecting every single device that people used, from laptops and phones to smart sensors and even coffee machines. It required creating unified systems that could see and protect everything, rather than having separate tools that couldn't communicate with each other effectively. The experience had shown Maya that cybersecurity wasn't just about having the fanciest technology, it was about understanding how people use devices, anticipating what could go wrong, and designing solutions that protected information while still allowing people to do their jobs efficiently. "Good night, Mom," Maya called out as she headed upstairs. "Thanks for teaching me about keeping all our devices safe." "Good night, future Chief Digital Guardian," Sarah called back with a smile. "Sweet dreams, and remember, every device is a potential gateway that needs protection." As Maya drifted off to sleep, she dreamed about designing amazing security systems that could protect millions of devices around the world, keeping people safe while they worked, learned, and played in an increasingly connected digital world. Her journey toward becoming a cybersecurity expert was just beginning, and she couldn't wait to learn more about protecting the digital world that connected everyone together.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel for the latest updates.